everyone, my name is Emily Rodrigue, and today I'm going to be talking about cinematography and mise-en-scène as they are seen in the films we've watched in class. So a few definitions first. Cinematography means motion picture photography, and it's the art and craft of making motion pictures by capturing a story visually. It includes techniques such as camera distance, angles, lenses, movement, etc. And then mise-en-scène translates to staging. It refers to elements of a movie like actors, lighting, sets, settings, costumes, makeup, and other features of the image that exist independent of the camera and the processes of filming and editing. So to differentiate them, cinematography is how the elements of the mise-en-scène are captured in order to tell the story and convey certain messages and meanings, and the mise-en-scène is all of the elements of a film that are placed in front of the camera to create realism. So first, let's talk about cinematography. A quick history. The history of cinematography is marked by continually changing technology. The first films were made with film stock that was made from highly flammable nitrate, so it was later replaced with acetate-based safety film. In the 1930s, Technicolor allowed for color to replace the black and white films. So these two pictures from Goddess and Flower of War clearly illustrate this transition. The development of different camera lenses allowed cinematographers to use different focal lengths. The distance between the center of the lens to the point where the light rays meet in sharp focus to alter the perspective of an image. Wide-angle lenses have a short focal length, telephoto lenses have a long one, and a zoom lens is a variable focus lens. So in these examples from The Taking of Tiger Mountain, the image on the top is using a wide-angle lens as the focal length is short, and the one on the bottom is using a telephoto lens with a long focal length. Later technological developments included lightweight handheld cameras, widely used from World War II on, widescreen processes and 3D technology in the 1950s, the Steadicam in the 1970s, computer-generated imagery, or CGI, introduced in the 1970s, digital cinematography in the 1990s, and advances in 3D cinema and virtual reality, or VR, in the 2000s. So the film Taking of Tiger Mountain was filmed with 3D technology and used a lot of CGI in its animals and explosions in particular. The most basic unit of cinematography is the shot, a continuously exposed piece of film or continuous digitally captured image without cuts. Here are some examples of shots from Sports Queen and Farewell My Concubine. Did you notice how they never cut to another image? That's because they are one continuous shot. Each shot orchestrates four important attributes. Framing, which refers to everything seen within the frame of a shot, including actors, sets, props, etc. Depth of field, which refers to things such as camera angle, camera distance, etc. Color, which we saw earlier with Technicolor. And movement, which refers to camera movement. Point of view is the position from which a person, an event, or an object is seen or filmed. Here's an example of a point of view shot from Flowers of War. The aspect ratio is the relation of width to height of the film frame as it appears on a screen or a monitor. The black and white films we saw used a smaller aspect ratio where the screen looked more like a square, and the newer films we've seen such as Farewell My Concubine, Green Snake, and Flowers of War use a longer rectangular shape, which is a longer aspect ratio. On-screen space refers to the space visible within the frame, and off-screen space is the implied space or world outside the film's frame. So in this shot that we can see on the right from Flowers of War, the two students are on screen, while the Japanese soldiers looking for them are off screen. These kinds of shots often create a lot of suspense and are used very widely in horror films. Camera height is the height of the camera in relation to the ground to show different perspectives. Here's a quick example from Green Snake. Shot scale. The scale of the shot is the distance between the camera and the shot subject. Scale is described by a variety of terms, including extreme close-ups, medium close-ups, medium shots, medium long shots, and extreme long shots. The names are a bit repetitive, but they're all very different kinds of shots. First of all, the extreme close-up shot often only shows one part of a person's body, such as an eye, a mouth, an ear, or in this case, their hand. A close-up shot often captures a person's face. A medium close-up shot is often filmed from the chest up, and it's also known as a bust shot. A medium shot is often filmed from the waist up, as seen here. And the medium long shot is filmed from the mid-thigh up. This shot is also called the American shot because it was used a lot in traditional American westerns when cowboys would have their hand over their gun on their hilt. The long shot captures the character's entire body, showing their head all the way to their feet, while also having them as the central part of the shot. Meanwhile, the extreme long shot, as seen in this very poor quality image, shows that the landscape is the most important part of the scene, while the characters who are small are less significant. So here, where they are is more important than who is there. Next, we'll talk about focus, which is also an aspect of depth of field. A deep focus shot is one in which multiple focal planes, the foreground, middle ground, and background, are all in sharp focus. This was common with black and white films, since the technology of camera lenses was not as developed. So in this scene on the left from Spring in a Small Town, we can see everything in the shot, including the ruins, the husband, and the garden, is all in sharp focus. Meanwhile, a shallow focus shot is one in which only one or two elements in the shot are in focus, while the rest are blurred. So in this example on the right from the taking of Tiger Mountain, we can see the soldier is in sharp focus, while the trees in the background are blurred. Camera angles. Film shots are positioned according to several angles, from straight on to above or below. High angles present a point of view from above, and low angles present a point of view from below. In this scene from Flowers of War, we can see both high angles and low angles being used. Next, we'll talk about camera movement. A film camera can be moved in numerous ways to create different visual impressions. While on a stationary tripod, a camera can pan or tilt to provide horizontal or vertical movement, respectively. Reframing refers to the movement of the frame from one position to another within a single continuous shot. Here's an example from Spring in a Small Town. A tracking shot changes the position of the point of view by moving the camera forward, backward, or around the subject. Here's an example from Farewell My Concubine. A handheld shot allows freedom of movement that may result in a shaky image. Here's an example from Flowers of War. This kind of shot often gives a sense of chaos and anxiety, and it can often make the viewer feel like they're witnessing the scene in person. moving cameras can be stabilized through equipment like a Steadicam, which we saw earlier in this presentation. So, to differentiate the different kinds of effects that are used in film, special effects refer to explosions and illusions. These were primarily seen in The Taking of Tiger Mountain. Optical effects include slow motion, which slows down the rate of a shot, and fast motion, which does the opposite and accelerates the rate of the shot. Process shots combine two images to create one image, as seen in this example from Goddess. And matte shots place the shot subject in front of an artificial background, which is usually painted. Visual effects include CGI, which was seen a lot in the animals and explosions of The Taking of Tiger Mountain. And performance capture technology was used in films like Avatar and Star Wars, where the movements of the actors were captured and placed onto animated characters to make them seem realistic. The primary values of cinematography. A film image has two primary values: presentation as a true record of the world, and representation as an interpretation of reality. On the top here we can see a scene from Crows and Sparrows. This film in particular used a lot of presentation, as it was very historically accurate to what the citizens of China were going through, just as the communists were starting to take over the nationalists. And in the bottom here we can see from The Taking of Tiger Mountain. This film in particular used a lot of representation, especially in its action sequences and some of its characters, for the purpose of entertainment. Two traditions of compositional practice for the film image are presence, in which the audience encounters the image directly, and textuality, in which the audience engages intellectually with the image. Most of the films we've seen used textuality, as they all made reference to historical moments. Now let's talk about mise-en-scène. So, a bit of history. The earliest movies depended on natural light. The introduction of artificial lighting in the 1900s allowed filmmakers to move film production into studios and onto elaborate sound stages. On the left here we can see a soundstage in Hollywood. On-location shooting came to prominence again around World War II, evident in Italian neo-realist films and Hollywood crime dramas. So for example, Flowers of War was shot on location in Nanjing, China. Settings and sets establish realism and atmosphere. Most of the sets that we saw in the films were historical, particularly in Flower My Concubine, Green Snake, and The Taking of Tiger Mountain. However, most of the black and white films would have been using sets accurate to the time during which they were filmed. Props are objects that function as parts of the set and that actors can interact with. On the top here we can see John with the flag to try and stop the Japanese soldiers from invading the church. And on the bottom we can see the bonsai exchange between the two characters. Actors are usually at the center of the mise-en-scène, meaning that they are some of the most important aspects of the mise-en-scène. Performance describes actors' use of language and physical expression to bring a character to life. Performance is what gives actors awards. Leading actors play the central characters in a film, while supporting actors play secondary characters. As we can see on the top right here, the actors who portrayed Shu and Yu Mo are leading actors, while the others that portrayed the other prostitutes and other students are supporting actors. Blocking is the arrangement and movements of characters in relation to one another on a stage or a set. On the bottom right here, we can see from Crows and Sparrows, the characters are dispersed throughout the room in what seems to be a random order. However, this was a conscious decision that the director made, called blocking.
来了来了，阿妹，快把桂圆汤端上来。 莫为他打不死的完全，莫为他。
正好你们大家伙都在这儿，我们老爷吩咐过了，我们就要跟部里到台湾去了，这儿的房子要出顶了，你们3家快点自个儿找房子，别耽误了自个儿啊！
嘿，狐狸精打了我！
给我吃一点，帮我
干嘛？干嘛？不识好歹的东西，你吃过牛奶没有？
Costumes and makeup. Costumes are the clothing and related accessories that define specific characters, while makeup refers to cosmetics, including prosthetics, applied to the actors' faces and bodies that highlight or distort certain features. So in this first image, we can see Lord Hawk from The Taking of Tiger Mountain use prosthetics on his face and on his hair to create more of a villainous appearance, while in the second image here, we can see Jie Yi and Xiao Lu applying makeup.
听说您在八大胡同打出名来了。
嗯，啊，这武二郎碰上西门庆了，不太能成。
这么说，有个潘金莲了。
这是什么话？
你想听什么话？
Makeup and costumes in this film in particular was a huge part of Jie Yi's character, as we saw when we were studying the film. In the third picture, we can see just after the prostitutes have put on the student uniforms, this costume change was very symbolic of their transformation as characters from selfish to selfless. While in this last image from Green Snake, we can see the two costumes worn by the two snakes are historically accurate to the period during which the film is set. Lighting. Lighting can be natural or directional and can range from hard to soft. Natural lighting comes from a natural source like sunlight or firelight. In the first image from Flowers of War, we can see the sunlight coming through the window, which makes us infer that everything in the scene is going to be illuminated from natural light coming from outside. Directional lighting is deliberately set up to define and shape the object, area, or person being illuminated. In the second image from Goddess, the scene takes place at night, but the character is clearly illuminated, meaning that it used directional lighting. Three-point lighting is a common style of directional lighting that uses three sources: a key light to illuminate the object, backlighting to pick out the object from the background, and fill lighting that minimizes shadows. In this shot of Yu Mu from Flowers of War, the key light is what's illuminating the front of her face, the backlighting is what's making that light appear on the back of her hair and on her clothes, and the fill lighting is what's illuminating the other prostitute and George in the background. High key lighting is diffused, low contrast lighting that reduces or eliminates hard edges and shadows and can be more flattering when filming people. In this example from Green Snake, we can see she is illuminated with high key lighting as there's almost no shadows on her face and she's well lit. Low-key lighting is a high-contrast style that creates hard edges, distinctive shadows, and a harsh effect. On the bottom is an example of low-key lighting from Green Snake, as half of the face of the white snake is in shadow. Traditions of mise-en-scène. There are two prominent traditions of cinematic mise-en-scène: naturalistic and theatrical. Naturalistic mise-en-scène appears to correspond to the real world and is recognizable to viewers. This category includes historical and everyday mise-en-scène. Theatrical mise-en-scène presents locations and other elements so that they appear unfamiliar, exaggerated, or artificial. This category includes expressive mise-en-scène and constructed mise-en-scène. Most of the films that we've seen used either historical or everyday mise-en-scène. Historical mise-en-scène was used in films such as Feral My Concubine, Green Snake, Flowers of War, and The Taking of Tiger Mountain, whereas everyday mise-en-scène was used at the beginning and a little bit throughout Taking of Tiger Mountain, and also in almost every single black and white film we saw, as the setting was accurate to the time during which they were filmed. As for theatrical mise-en-scène, the films that we've seen didn't really use it, so I've pulled some examples from other films. Expressive mise-en-scène is usually quite unrealistic and abstract to create meanings, whereas constructed mise-en-scène is where the characters often create or shape their environment strictly through their desire. In this example from Ready Player One, the characters have decided to limit the use of the virtual reality game The Oasis, and this scene sees them enjoying their time in the real world, which is what they desired. And that is it for my presentation. I hoped all of you enjoyed and were able to learn something. Thank you!